Hi there, welcome to TypeScript-Tacos. And today I want to talk about the recent release of TypeScript 1.7 from Microsoft. This is a pretty neat release because it has the ability to use async await functions inside of your application. So if you're not familiar with async await pattern, it's used in C# right now, and it's part of the ES7 spec. And what you can do is that it's really good for waiting for asynchronous methods to complete, and you're going to await for them to complete. It's pretty simple to get a hold of. And you can only, it's good to note that you can only target ES6 code by using TypeScript async and await functions. And when you create the ES6 code, you can use Babel to create the generators from the async await code, and it'll compile out to ES5 using some polyfills that it does. It's got some other really cool functionality in here that I won't go over, except this exponentiation functionality, which I think is kind of cool. So if you want to square something, you just do a 2 times 2, which is a double star here. It's going to square it. And you want to cube it. You want 2 double stars 3, which is going to cube it, and so on, which is kind of neat to do in your code when you're writing it. I just thought that was kind of really cool. So let's talk about how you would use async await functions in your code. What we have up here is a delay method that takes milliseconds, and it's going to return a promise. And what it's going to do is it's going to use the milliseconds in a set timeout that will resolve the promise after a certain amount of time. So our first function here is our first order of tacos. And you'll notice here that this is a async method that we're calling, because we're going to wait for this method to be completed so that we can run the code. And we have an array of the types of tacos that we want. We want carne asada, carnitas, barbacoa, and pollo. Right? So we're going to map over the array. And because we're using map, and map takes a method, it needs to be an async method that we pass into map. And that's because we're going to be waiting for this promise up here to get resolved. So we're going to pass an async method in here, and we're going to wait for a delay of 1,000 milliseconds, and we're going to console.log out the order of the order 1 tacos, along with the number and the type of taco being passed in. Now, we wouldn't need this async method inside this async method if this was just a regular for loop. But if you're going to be using the map methods, filter methods, sum, things like that, then you're going to want to know that you need to pass an async function in there if you're going to be using this await at all. So then we're going to have another order, order 2, that's going to do the same thing, except it's going to do it for 100 milliseconds. And it's going to print out order 2, the taco number, and the type. Then we have a function down here called order tacos that is an async function because it's going to await for order 1 to complete, and it's going to await for order 2 to complete. And these are going to be running at the same time. Now, every time you're going to try to await for an asynchronous method to return, you need to have it inside of an async function. That's just something to keep note of. Then we're just going to call order tacos immediately when we run this application. So I've already compiled this application using TypeScript, and then all I need to do is run node. As you can see here, the order 2 of tacos was only 100 milliseconds. Is going to complete first, so we get all the order 2 tacos coming over, and the order 1 tacos we're waiting for 1,000 milliseconds, and after that time is complete, the order 1 tacos come over. Now, this is really handy for using any sort of asynchronous methods. If you've worked with async await inside of C#, you've probably used it to make web API calls or other calls like that using the HTTP modules, and they're very popular inside C# code, and they are very handy for working with asynchronous code that can be compiled out to JavaScript and work the same way. So go ahead and feel free to try out async await in your code and maybe get away from some weird behavior that you might have used before. Thank you.